In my previous video, I delved deep into the culture and history of the ancient Ayleids of Tamriel. We even stopped an obsessive collector of Ayleid artifacts from turning himself into an Ayleid king and restoring the Ayleid Empire. The Ayleids are gone and wiped out. The Ayleids' obliteration from Tamriel was less a cultural significance to the Ayleids as it was the dawn of man on Tamriel. It was Nedic men rising up and taking their position of dominance over the mainland of Tamriel. The rise of man and the founding of the First Empire is a cultural creation myth with supernatural phenomena that rivals the supernatural phenomena that created Mundus and Nirn itself. And because of this, it's a work of fiction, but it is all real in the game world, which then allows us to take things at face value and theorize the implications for the lore of the Elder Scrolls universe. The destruction of the Ayleid Empire and the founding of the Elysian Empire centers around three central characters. Saint Alicia, the political leader of the Slave Rebellion and eventually the first Empress of the Elysian Empire. Morihaus, a bold demigod of Kinnereth who has an intimate relationship with Alicia, and he could be the progenitor of the Minotaur race we see in the game. Finally, we have Pelinel Whitestrake, who is also a demigod, who is the violent champion of the rebellion, is the one who slays the Ayleid rulers. Pelinel also seems to have deeper connections to the creation myth of Mundus and Nirn, and could possibly be transcending time itself, specifically his connection to a long-dead deity. Pelinel is also the central character that follows the Knights of the Nine DLC for Oblivion. Before going on this lore deep dive, it would mean a lot if you would like the video and subscribe to the channel. It goes a long way to making more of these videos. Thank you. Saint Alicia was born a slave into the Ayleid Empire. Nothing initially makes Alicia unique other than that she prayed to Akatosh and the other Aedra to help humans break free from being slaves to the Ayleids. Something that I forgot to state in my last video on the ancient Ayleid Empire explicitly is that the Ayleids had a direct connection with the Plane of Oblivion. Daedra commonly came into Nirn and assisted the Ayleids with their plans, one of which being the enslavement and subjugation of the humans of Cyrodiil. Basically, ancient Cyrodiil was the world that Mankar Cameron wanted to turn modern-day Cyrodiil back into. Akatosh and the Aedra showed favor with Alicia and created a covenant to stop the Daedra. This is described in the Book of Trials of Saint Alicia. Akatosh made a covenant with Alicia in those days so long ago. He gathered the tangled skins of Oblivion and knit them fast with the bloody sinews of his heart, and gave them to Alicia, saying, "This shall be my token to you, that so long as your blood and oath hold true, yet shall my blood and oath be true to you. This token shall be the amulet of kings, and the covenant shall be made between us. For I am the king of spirits, and you are the queen of mortals. As you shall stand witness for all mortal flesh, so shall I stand witness for all immortal spirits." And Akatosh drew from his breast a burning handful of his heart's blood, and he gave it into Alicia's hand, saying, "This shall also be a token to you of our joined blood and pledged faith. So long as you and your descendants shall wear the amulet of kings, then shall this dragonfire burn, an eternal flame, as a sign to all men and gods of our faithfulness. So long as the dragonfire shall burn, to you and to all generations, I swear that my heart's blood shall hold fast the gates of Oblivion. So long as the blood of the dragon runs strong in her rulers, the glory of the empire shall extend in unbroken years. But should the dragonfires fail, and should no heir of our joined blood wear the amulet of kings, then shall the empire descend into darkness, and the demon lords of misrule shall govern the land." This is why the humans were able to rise up and destroy the Ayleid Empire. It's also the crux of the main objective in the main quest of Oblivion. We need to get Martin of the Imperial line to reignite the dragonfires so the portals of Oblivion can get closed. Martin then transcends this by turning into Akatosh and banishing Mehrunes Dagon himself. This then closes the door on the Covenant getting broken in the future, as there is no blood heir, no amulet of kings, or dragonfires. The Daedra are staying locked in Oblivion. A closing of the book of the saga, but not completely. If Bethesda wanted to, I bet they could come up with some sort of answer to how the Daedra could get back into Tamriel, but for now, they're locked away. But back to the beginning of the First Era, Ayleids and Alicia. The covenant that Alicia made with Akatosh is what incites the slave rebellion. The Aedra also gave other aid to Alicia in Morihaus and Pelinel Whitestrake. Alicia first meets Morihaus and Pelinel in the Song of Pelinal Volume 2. Perif spoke to the handmaiden again, eyes to the heavens which had not known kindness since the beginning of elven rule, and she spoke as a mortal whose kindle is beloved by the gods for its strength and weakness, a humility that can burn with metaphor and yet break easily and always doomed to end in death. And this is why those who let their souls burn anyway are beloved of the dragon and his kin. And she said, "And this thing I have thought of, I have named it, and I call it freedom, which I think is just another word for Shazar who goes missing. You made the first reign at his sundering, and that is what I ask now for our alien masters, that we might sunder them fully and repay their cruelty by dispersing them to drown in the Topol. Morihaus, your son, mighty and snorting, gore-horned, winged, when next he flies down, let him bring us anger." And then kind granted Perf another symbol, a diamond soaked red with the blood of elves, whose facets could unsector and form into a man whose every angle could cut her jailers and a name, Pelinel, which is the star-made night, and he was arrayed in armor from the future time, and he walked into the jungles of Sirad already killing. Morihaus stamping at his side, froth bloody and bellowing from excitement because the Pelinel was come. And Pelinel came to Perif's camp of rebels holding a sword and mace, both encrusted with the smashed viscera of elven faces, feathers, and magic beads, which were the markings of the Ayleid, stuck to the redness that hung from his weapons, and he lifted them, saying, "These were their eastern chieftains, no longer full of their talking." This leads us to learning about Morihaus. From the Song of Pelinal, we learn that Morihaus is the son of Kinnereth, the god of the winds, sea, and elements. Morihaus is a bull humanoid with wings to fly with. Kinnereth is Morihaus's mother. That makes him a demigod of the winds. He is also known as the finest archer in Cyrodiil. Morihaus also becomes Saint Alessia's lover and consort, which is described in the Song of Pelinal, Volume 5. Never did Pelinal counsel Morihaus in time of war, for the man-bull fought magnificently, and led men well, and never resorted to madness. But the Whitestrake did warn against the growing love with Perif. "We are Ada, Mor, and change things through love. We must take care lest we beget more monsters on this earth. If you do not detest, she will take to you, and you will transform all of Sirad if you do this." And to this the bull became shy, for he was a bull, and he felt his form too ugly for the Praviana at all times, especially when she disrobed for him. He snorted, though, and shook his nose hoop into the light of the Secunda moon, and said, "She is like this shine on my nose hoop here, an accident sometimes, but whenever I move my head at night, she is there, and so you know what you ask is impossible." So, once again, we are back to people having sex with things they are not supposed to be having sex with. If you go deep enough into the internet, you can find videos of people having sex with bulls and horses and stuff like that, and I'm not sure if that works out so well. Pretty sure that's how people die, by getting their internal organs rearranged. Tamriel definitely needs some better sex education. Though I guess, once again, this lovemaking was successful because Alessia does give birth to Belaharza, the very first Minotaur, and succeeds Alessia on the ruby throne. It is not confirmed that Belhazar is the initial ancestor of all the Minotaurs we see in Cyrodiil, but one scholar from ESO does have a theory from the book on Minotaurs. "No matter how many institutions of higher education expel me, no matter how many publishers decline to print and distribute my theories, I refuse to recant my position or change the topic of my research, not until Minotaurs have received the recognition and respect they deserve. In the course of my research into the origins of the Empire, specifically the rise and fall of the Elysian Order, I came across a wondrous thing. Hidden in the background, often purposefully obscured, but still visible to those who know what to look for, was an entire race of humanoids who have been all but stricken from the historic record. This crime against history must not stand, and I pledge to restore these creatures to their proper place in the chronicle of the Empire. I'm referring, of course, to the maligned and misunderstood Minotaur. These humanoids, with bodies that resemble humans and heads that resemble bulls, trace their lineage to Empress Alicia herself. While no period records survive to state the truth of this situation, many ancient documents from later periods speak of a relationship between the slave queen and Kinnereth's son, Morihaus, whom the divine sent to aid and advise Alicia. Often depicted as a Minotaur, the demigod Morihaus, I believe, gave rise to the race through his dalliances with the slave queen and the birth of her son, Belaharza, the man-bull. Nonus Coprinius gives us a historical reason for why the Minotaur was expelled from society, and finishes, "Oh, scoff if you must. Go ahead, I've suffered worst. But take a moment and at least consider what I've presented. Then ask yourself, why do the Minotaurs guard these ancient imperial sites? Maybe in that question, you'll come to appreciate the Minotaurs at least a little." This theory seems to be a controversial one, as another scholar is skeptical of the claim in the book, The Truth of Minotaurs. The fact is that Minotaurs are the bitter fruit of some spell or alchemical process gone awry. There is no great conspiracy, no zealously guarded secret, just an unfortunate, ghastly accident. Truly, who could look at one of these bovine brutes and see the proud legacy of Akatosh stirring in their blood? These are the ravings of a disturbed mind and should be treated as such. So it's a little up in the air if the Minotaurs were once intelligent. If I had to guess, this might be some tempered seed planting by Bethesda. They're creating the contentious subject so that if they ever want to bring up a storyline about Minotaurs, they can, and pick up the narrative that fits best, basically. Maybe we'll see the Minotaurs in Elder Scrolls 6. I doubt it, but you never know. Now we can talk about the brutal but also mysterious figure Pelinel Whitestrake. Pelinel is also a demigod, but his lineage isn't specified. From reading of Pelinel and Morris's introduction, we learn that Pelinel is a symbol of a red diamond soaked in the blood of elves. So hating elves is just his inherent nature, basically. We also learn that Pelinel wears armor from the future time. So Pelinel is some sort of time traveler, and has some sort of connection with Akatosh, who is the god of time, which makes sense. Pelinel then goes on a massive elf-killing spree, killing specifically the Ayleid sorcerer kings. Pelinel also seemed to have a connection to another deity described in the Song of Pelinal, where Perif's falconers had sent for the Nords, and they, looking at him, said that Shor had returned, but he spat at their feet for profaning that name. Shor is the Nordic version of Lorkhan, so there seems to be a theory that Pelinel could be an avatar of Lorkhan as well. We are given more clues of this in the Song of Pelinal, and it is said that he emerged into the world like a Padomike, that is, born by Sithis, and all the forces of change therein. Still others, like Fifth of Nutid, say that beneath Pelinel's star armor was a chest that gaped open to show no heart, only a red rage-shaped diamond fashion, singing like a mindless dragon. And this was proof that he was a myth echo, and that where he trod were shapes of first urging. Pelinel cared for none of this, and killed any who would speak god logic, except for fair Perif, who he said enacts rather than talks, as language without exertion is dead witness. When those soldiers who heard him say this stared blankly, he laughed and swung his sword, running into the rain of kine to slaughter their Ayleid captives, screaming, "Oh, Akka, for our shared madness, I do this. I watch you, watching me, watching back. Umaril dares call us out, and for that is how we made him." And it was during these fits of anger and nonsense that Pelinel would fall into the madness, where whole swaths of land were devoured in divine rampage to become void, and Alicia would have to pray to the gods for their succor, and they would reach down as one mind and soothe Whitestrake until he no longer had the will to kill the earth in whole. And Garrod of the men of Gi once saw such a madness from afar and maneuvered, after it had abated, to drink together with Pelinel, and he asked what such an affliction felt like, to which Pelinel could only answer, like when the dream no longer needs its dreamer. So it seems that Pelinel would be some sort of reincarnation of Lorkhan, considering he is missing his heart, the way Lorkhan's had his heart removed. Pelinel also seems to be able to communicate with Akatosh. He also seems to go god mode and murder with a madness never seen before, like when a dream no longer needs its dreamer. So what does this all mean? Is Pelinel just crazy and just is incredibly powerful? I have somewhat of a vague theory on this, and it's that this is probably some sort of Lorcan of the future, maybe, and that he has been resurrected and sent back in time to change Tamriel from the elf to man-dominated that we see today. I think that this is also somewhat of a mixture of the Lorcan theory with sort of the new Akatosh once being the primary god of the elves, now switching his favor to the covenant with man. So to an extent, this is sort of like an Akatosh-Lorcan mix. They're sort of melded together with the Lorcan deity of man, basically. Vivek mentions in one of his sermons that Lorcan has achieved Kim, but self-sabotaged it so he was be able to show others the way. So Pelinel could be this Kim-achieved Lorcan who is the Shezarazine to show the path for others and help man succeed. The statement of a dream that no longer needs its dreamer is sort of a reference to Kim, basically the waking up and realizing that they're in a video game. Sort of makes sense, and that would make sense how Pelinel is able to sort of go into god mode and be able to kill anything and everything at will, basically, is that he has transcended the game that he's in, and so therefore he is all-powerful, and that this is sort of a mix between the two gods as well. Pelinel eventually succeeds by killing the king of the Ayleids, Umaril, who is the final boss we fight in the Knights of the Nine. Pelinel is unfortunately chopped up into 8 separate pieces by the other Ayleids and scattered across the Empire. And while he is just a severed head, he's still able to talk with Morihaus in the Adabala. And in the blood-floored throne room of white gold, the severed head of Pelinel spoke to the winged bull, Morihaus, demigod lover of Alesh, saying, "Our enemies have undone me and spread my body into hiding. In mockery of divine purpose, the Ayleids cut me into 8s, for they are obsessed with this number." And Morihaus, confused, snorted through his ring, saying, "Your crusades went beyond her counsel, Whitestrake, but I am a bull and therefore reckless in my wit. I think I would go and gore our prisoners if you had left me any alive. You are blood made glorious, uncle, and will come again as fox animal or light. Sirad is ours." Then Pelinel spoke again for the last time. "Beware, Morihaus, beware. With the foresight of death, I know now that my foe yet lives. Bitter knowledge to take to my grave. Better that I have died believing myself the victor. Although cast beyond the doors of night, he will return. Be vigilant. I can no longer shield the host of men from Umaril's retribution." Even after this, though, Elysia and Morihaus are able to destroy the rest of the Ayleid Empire and establish the Elysian Empire. And after all of that, we now have the backstory for the Knights of the Nine. And the Knights of the Nine is, I would say, a far more straightforward story. We are given rumors that an attack on the Chapel of Debel in Anvil has occurred. And we go and we find a prophet. And the prophet tells us of what has happened and that Umaril has returned to take his revenge on man and reestablish the Ayleid Empire.
"No one who would stand for the Nine." "Oh my! To what do I owe this honor? I am but a humble prophet. What business do you have with me?" "This is only the beginning. Umaril has returned, as foretold by Pelinel Whitestrake in his dying breath. Umaril the Unfeathered, the sorcerer king of the Ayleids, who ruled over this land for long ages before the rise of men. He was cast down by Pelinel Whitestrake, but Umaril's spirit survived, and now he has returned to seek vengeance upon the gods." Does no one remember the old tales? Saint Pelinel, the divine crusader of legend, Alicia's companion when she overthrew the rule of the Ayleids 3,000 years ago. Pelinel, with the aid of the gods, fought the Ayleid sorcerer King Umaril and slew him. But Umaril's spirit survived, and he has now returned. Do you understand nothing? The blood speaks. I can read the ancient runes if you cannot. As uibala, umarale el nada rakuva. In the alien tongue, by the eternal power of Umaril, the mortal gods shall be cast down. A curse upon Umaril's ancient foes, and a threat. Alas, Umaril cannot be stopped. Not without the aid of the gods, not without the Crusaders' relics. Without a champion, the gods are powerless to act. But who among us is worthy to wield the divine Crusaders' weaponry?
And so, for us to be able to fight Umaril, we have to take on the power of Whitestrake and the Crusaders' relics. And doing so, we have to purify ourselves by going to all the way shrines of all the different Aedra.
Hail, knight! You seek my relics with a worthy heart.
Your prayers have woken me from my endless dream. Or perhaps you have entered my dream, and I still sleep. I think others have sometimes spoken to me. Others like you, but my memory is doubtful. Perhaps the others came after you. Your need must be great for the gods to allow us to speak. Has Umaril the Accursed found a way back? The foulest of a foul race. 1,000 curses upon his unholy name. I thought I'd won, but I should have known. The slave masters are a cunning breed. Umaril found a way to cheat death as I could not. If you would seek for my relics, I know little that can help you. All that has passed since my death is like mist that my mind cannot take hold of. My friends built a shrine upon the site of my death, where the elves tormented me in a final act of revenge. I can show you where it once stood. Perhaps it is there still. Fare thee well, Sir Knight. May the gods grant you to destroy utterly as I.
And then we go on a quest for all the different pieces of the Crusader, which is nice little pieces of armor that helps us. And then we are finally able to take on Umaril and destroy him, and then follow him into the heavens and be able to destroy his soul so that he is forever gone and never can harm Cyrodiil ever again. This DLC is great, but I have to say is the lore is just so much more cool and metal than the gameplay is. The Knights of the Nine is basically just a bunch of fetch quests and one boss fight. Bethesda didn't really give it the gameplay love that the lore deserved. And most people playing through the DLC learn nothing of the lore, which is so crazy to me because it is so amazing, interesting, and weird. At least you know now and can appreciate it. Thanks for listening to my lore deep dive on the Knights of Nine. It would mean a lot if you would like the video and subscribe to the channel. It goes a long way to helping me make more of these videos. Thank you.